Hi, I'm Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. When my children were small and we traveled, we didn't have any of the electronics, no drop-down things, nothing you do like this. We just sang in the car, we talked in the car, and we played I Spy. I Spy is one of the most fun games we played. We I Spied colors, we I Spied things. We just had a lot of fun with I Spy. So as they got a little older and I started quilting, I wanted to make I Spy quilts. Now there are loads of different I Spy quilts that you can make, but I love to make the jar block. The hardest thing about making an I Spy quilt, though, is collecting all the fabric. You have to, you go to this store and get a little piece, and this store and a little piece, and you're searching for it for a long time. So we went to Benartex and talked to them about putting together an I Spy pack for us. They have lots of novelties, and we just wanted them to go to all their different lines, grab their novelties, put them together in these packs, and guess what? They did it. So we have 2 I Spy packs. And I love them. One is a primary color, one is pastels, and they're just great. They have everything from grass to fruit to money to cars. I mean, just all kinds of things. And you'll be able to see those a little more as we talk about the quilts that I made with them. So one of the reasons we had them put these together in a layer cake is because some of the prints are larger, like this beach ball, and you may want to fussy cut around it instead of just, cutting your jar out. You may want to fussy cut it. The other reason is that you can make different size blocks or different size jars. And so I want to show you this quilt right here. I have some large jars. These are my quart jars. There we go. Let me hold this up for you. These are the quart jars. You can use any kind of background for your jars, and you can use any kind of color for your lids. You just want to be consistent so the jars pop off. The other thing I did with this quilt was I took some of the leftover pieces and I made a piano key border that goes all the way around it, so you can even play I Spy in the borders. It's just way fun. Oh, my grandchildren love these. Okay, so what you're going to do to make your quart-sized jar is you're going to take your layer cake and you're going to cut it in half. This is a 10-inch square, so that will give you a 5-inch by 10-inch strip. Let's go ahead and do that. Look at this one, it's bread rolls. It's so cute. All right, so let's cut this in half right here. There we go. And this gives you your quart jar. There we are. And the next thing we're going to do is you're going to take a strip of 1.5-inch wide fabric, and that's going to be your background color. Mine is black. And we're going to go ahead and cut some corners. So we're going to cut 4 1.5-inch squares off our strip, like this. Just a little square like that. And then we're going to put one of those squares on each corner. So what we need to either draw the line from corner to sew on, or we can press it. And I'm going to press it over here. And so you just fold it in half diagonally, match up your little corners, and that will give me a line to sew on. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here, and I'm going to put one of these squares on each corner. So let's go over to the sewing machine and do that. Now I'm using some gray thread on this so that you can see how I'm sewing. I'm going to sew right on the crease. And you can see that right there. And then we're going to go ahead and sew all 4 corners. And I have some blocks over here already cut. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and put them on. And when you do this, this is called snowballing a block, because you're putting a little corner, a little square on each corner. It's going to give it more of a round appearance than a square appearance. And I just go ahead and leave my thread connected, pull it out a little bit, and just add corner to corner to corner as I turn the block around in there. There we go. Now we're going to bring this over here, and we're going to trim off these corners. Let me clip this thread right here so it'll lay nice and flat for us to do that. All right. So let's go ahead and trim those corners. So I'm going to lay my ruler right. The 1/4-inch line is on the stitch line, And we'll cut off that excess so we don't have extra fabric when we fold that back. And this is what we get. We get a little block that has the little corners cut off, and then we're going to go ahead and iron those back. And I like to just lay my iron, you're going to set your seam and then roll that corner back. So just push the iron down on there, set those seams. When you set a seam, it just kind of embeds the thread into the fabric, makes it lay nice and flat. Okay, so basically, this is your block right here, and now what it needs is a lid. So to make the lid, we use the same 1 1/4 inch squares on the corner and a 3-inch lid in the middle. But what we're going to do to hurry up that process is we're going to take 2 1 1/2 inch strips and our 3-inch strip for the middle, and we're going to sew them together in a long piece. And then when we need a lid for our jar, this piece is ready to go. We're just cutting it 1 1/2 inches. So I hope that made sense to you. Take 2 1 1/2 inch strips and 1 3-inch strip and sew them together. The 1 1/2s are on the outside of the 3-inch. And then you're going to go ahead and measure in 1 1/2 inches, and that will give you your lid piece. And so then you're just going to attach that lid piece right on the top of your jar, right here. And we'll go ahead and sew that on over here at the sewing machine. There we go. Now if you're using different sized blocks, then you just measure this part that's in between here. The 1/4 inch snowball corners will stay the same, but if you make like a 7-inch block, you're still going to use 1/4 inch on your corners, but your lid might be a little bit wider. So you just want to measure where your 1/4 inch, right here, let me see if I can show you this. Right here where your 1/4 inch comes in, you're going to measure this part right here, add 1/4 inch on for your seam, and then your lid will be that long. So you can make the block any size you want for a jar, you know, for this jar block. You can make it any size you want. You just want to make sure you leave that 1/4 inch seam when you measure it. So here we have our jar block, and I have several others made here, and they're just fun and cute. So when you go to put it together in a quilt, then you're going to sash it on either side and put them together in rows. See, I have a 2 1/2 inch sashing right here. And then we sash on either side of the jars, and then we put a sashing in between. So remember, you can buy a lot of these solid colors in jelly rolls already cut. The pre-cuts also come in solids, so that's kind of nice, and it makes it easy because we're not doing a lot of cutting. Okay, so when we sew our sashing in between, what we're going to do is we're going to measure this block to see how big it is. And it looks like it's 11 inches. So I'm going to cut an 11-inch strip off of my sashing. And I'm going to trim off that salvage first. We don't want the little salvage holes in our quilt. So I trim that off first. And then I'm going to come down here and cut an 11 inches. And this gives me the side piece for my jar block here. So let's go sew that on. All right. When you sew your sashing on, you always want to put it on top. That's the same with borders or anything. You want to put that extra piece of fabric on the top. And that's because your feed dogs take in more fabric, and you don't want your sashing to be stretchy, or it'll make your block will get all wonky and odd shaped. All right, so now we're just going to set the seam again and iron that back. So what I do with my blocks when I do this is I generally go ahead and take all my blocks and run, cut my sashings out and run them through one after another, so they all have a sashing on one side. And then I can just start putting the blocks together to form the long row. It speeds it up a little bit and helps that. So those of you who know me know I have a lot of grandchildren. And so for me, to get more bang for my buck, I cut my layer cakes into 4s, which will give me 4 blocks. And that will enable me to make these little pint jars, you know, where I can get, you know, like these are the pint jars right here, so I can get 4 quilts out of a pack instead of 2 quilts, which, you know, I love, and I need that with all my grandchildren. So I'm going to do the same thing. I think I have one over here. Yes, I have one over here done. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and put it's the same size square, 1.5 inch squares on the corner. I'm going to go ahead and put my squares all the way around my little jar here. And it's the same size lid strip because we're still dealing with 5 inches wide. So it's 1.5 inch strips on the side, the 3 inch piece in the middle. Sew that unit together, and then you can just cut off lids as you need them. And for a quilt this size, I believe it took 3 of these strip sets to do it. It's about 2 yards for the background. And when you buy a jelly roll, remember there's 42 strips, so you're going to get 2 3/4 yards in there. So a jelly roll is plenty to make this quilt. So, so I want you to just take a look at some of these things in this I Spy quilt. There are fun things in here. There's everything from the candied apples to the Volkswagen buses. Who remembers those? Ice cream sandwiches. It's just a really fun little game to play with your grandchildren. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. When my kids were little and we took trips in the car, we didn't have all this wait, sorry. Hello?